So obviously, you're a movement and yoga. Do you call yourself a teacher or a guide?
I don't know about teacher. I think we're all teachers. I think my I don't like to call them students because I don't believe they are. They're just people that come to my space and do classes that I guide, I guess, or I facilitate. I think you facilitate a process for someone, you create a space for someone, and you hold the space for them to feel safe enough to discover their body, to explore that unity between body and mind, and breath is a great bridge to that. So that's how I would describe myself. And I wouldn't even describe myself in yoga terms as a yogini or any of those things. Those people worked for centuries to get that title. And I'm a little bit... we've taken the essence of a very ancient teaching and then everybody's taking it and putting it through their own filter. And I'm cognizant of the fact that of not appropriating stuff from India. I often feel like that there's a lot of, we'll just take that, repackage that, remarket it, and make a lot of money from so that's where I believe I sit,
So, I think that's interesting. So how do you make it your own? What do you bring to it, do you think, that's your style and your take?
I like to, I'm much slower and much more gentler, and as I go on and I see the more necessary elements of that, so that slow and steady thing comes from my yoga practice as well. And people have, I find largely, and I've found that especially in New Plymouth, are quite disembodied. We're so in our head that we don't have, we've kind of forgotten our body and our feelings as a result of that, our emotions. So I spend a lot of time actually getting people just to stop and become aware of their body. And then I work with processes. I've done, started doing training to do with trauma and movement, which is starting to become a really big thing again, with a wonderful woman from America called Amber Gray, who works with people who have been victims of torture, and very solid woman and movement and dance teacher, psychologist as well. And so I've been working with a lot of processes to reset our vagal nerve, our polyvagal nerve, and neuroscience around that in our nervous system. So they're really simple processes to do with breath and movement and spine. And people think, I'm not doing very much, but very powerful things are happening by the end of the class. There's a space shift and your physiology has changed. So I'm sort of grounding right back into that space and then taking it further into movement. So then movement evolves from there. But to go straight into a lot of movement when we don't even know your body, you're like, oh, well, how does my arm feel? And when I do this, what does that feel like? And then start to process a lot of most people are in fight or flight every day. So I'm just, as a teacher, as a guide rather, I've seen so much of that coming in the room. I'm like, I can't start teaching these amazing big poses if these people don't, they need compassion and to be open to themselves and all those sorts of things. So it's taking the fear away from that, the woo-woo away from it, giving them really practical things, simple things to bring them back to their body and themselves and the awareness of that and their breath and grounding them, and then we can start to move. But again, it's really fluid movement, so it's functional movement so that your mind and your body comes together. What actually happens is your mind rests into your body and your breath are your guide. And your vagal nerve is what we call tonified. The sacral area and especially the spine. And then we work from there. Sounds complicated, but it's actually really gentle and really simple. And that's the other thing. So we're all different. My makeup is very different to your makeup. We all have different stuff going on. So it's got to be something really simple that anybody can do in any state, in any body shape. Because there's this whole thing about that it's for only a certain body shape and you've got to have the right clothes, and it just drives me nuts. So it's getting people back into their bodies more than anything else.
What sort of impact do you think it has in people's everyday lives? Like you say, if you get them back into their bodies, you get that sort of connection to what's going on and then thinking of well, I call it thinking physically, but what do you think the impact of that is in their life?
from what I've observed, better sleeping patterns, that they actually start to learn a pattern of rest, because our body needs to rest, and in those resting phases, it is giving us the answers and informing us about, I need to do this, or maybe I could solve. Yeah, it's giving our body the time to actually start informing our mind about ways to improve and ways we can live our life. So you see improvements in cognition, but sleep patterns, cognition, rest patterns, people start to slow down. They seem to, if I'm working with a family like I am kind of with at the moment, you start to see the family dynamics change, and this is the first kind of family I've observed this with. Because things start to calm, everything starts to calm and to ground, and people feel safe and solid, and their body starts to feel better. It starts to open. They start to realise the strength and the power they have, but also take care of it a bit more. Start thinking about it without even saying anything. Often their nutrition starts to change, or they start to walk more, or just start to be more aware of it and start to drop into it, and then change some patterns of movement. So no, their knee doesn't hurt like that anymore, or their feet are grounded. They're actually feeling solidity beneath them, and they feel supported by the space around them as well as the space within them.